So let's just jump right in, right? So I'll take a position, and you guys can argue with me. I believe that despite all the hype out there, that true AI adoption in the enterprise is pretty nascent. And we see pockets here and there, but if you look at the broad enterprise, and I don't really mean Silicon Valley born on the web. I mean, you go to your big retail stores, you go to the banks, and the adoption is pretty low. Do you guys agree? Is that what your perspective is? Maybe we'll just go this way.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
100% agree with that. And I see it from both sides of the coin. What I mean by both sides of the coin, in ServiceNow, we offer, which is all about digital transformation of IT, we offer products which enable ServiceNow customers to go through that digital transformation journey through the power of AI and artificial intelligence, and we see them being very productive because of that. Internally, I see my AI ops kind of model benefited because of the whole model, machine learning as well as artificial intelligence. It touches three aspects for me. It's about customer experience on our products. It's about proactively addressing issues for our customers, as well as it's about effectively running my own organization when I look at operations. Because if there are 100,000 issues that is thrown at me, then it's hard for me to navigate. Artificial intelligence and machine learning helps me aggregate that and being more productive.
Yeah. So you're using more AI for yourself.
As well
right?
as, yeah.
And trying to apply those methods out to your clients as well.
That's right.
Right? What are you saying? I mean, you're a startup. I think you obviously go talk to a lot of clients.
Yeah. So I think the answer is yes and no, right? I think it depends on the sector. So I think especially in fintech, we do see adoption actually growing very fast. I mean, in banks, lending firms, hedge funds actually use a lot of machine learning. They're actually getting into deep learning. So it depends on what you call AI, right? So now it's like, basically, if you classify only deep learning to be AI, yeah, you're right in the sense that that's actually slow in adoption. But if you actually also combine standard machine learning and AI, which a lot of people do these days, there is a lot of adoption happening. But obviously, in certain sectors, it is happening in a slower manner, maybe retail and other places. But we do see like fintech, in some cases healthcare, and definitely in consumer tech, there is rapid adoption of AI.
Sure. Sreekar?
Yeah, actually, this is a fantastic question, right? And actually, Peter, when he talked about at the introduction of this session, he talked about the three challenges that enterprise is seeing. One of the things that we are noticing, especially when I go to do a large AI transformation within an organization, the challenge we are facing right now is within organizations, they've been very point solution driven, and they've used humans as glues to point solutions. So I'll go into a call center and I look at the entire process. It's so much data, you can totally optimize this using AI and machine learning. But when you look at the way people operate within the call center, they have like 10 different systems that they interact with. And they use the human as the glue between all the systems. So effectively, in net effect, what you have done is you have basically undermined an algorithm that could have come and sat there, because now it has to look at 10 different systems, data from 10 different places. So this is where enterprise is really having a challenge, which is they have lived in a world of point solutions that were driven to optimization by various vendors. Today, when we talk about AI and machine learning in the back office for enterprise, they struggle because they don't know how to cohesively take knowledge out of this end-to-end process and really tie it into a framework. And I bet ServiceNow sees this every
absolutely.
day.
Yeah. And I think so there was many good points made here, right? Let me highlight the one you made, which is there's also this very big confusion, right? The hype is around deep learning, right? Most enterprises are not even using machine learning yet. So let's be clear. The definition I think we all agree on AI here is that it's a combination of methods. It's first of all an ensemble of methods. And there's going to be a lot of machine learning methods. In fact, there has been surveys by Kaggle, and there was one I just saw from another firm. And all these surveys show that the number one method used by most data scientists is logistic regression.
Yeah,
simplest method in the world.
You should try that first.
And you should always try logistic regression first, because that's the stake in the ground, and everything else can be compared to that, right? Yeah. Now, why is enterprise not just embracing this? I mean, it's the new water, it's the new electricity. We've heard every fancy phrase around it. I'll take a position,
Yeah.
and maybe you guys can agree or disagree, right? I believe there's three things, and you'll hear a lot about lack of talent. I think that's a red herring, right? So first of all, I'll take that controversial position. But I think the three things that I see in my discussions with clients is, number one, kind of what you alluded to. It's easy to talk about use cases with a broad brush. Let's do better fraud analytics. I mean, yeah, let's do better fraud analytics, right? I mean, how that didn't take a genius to figure that one out, right? But when you really come down to, okay, tell me the use case that is applicable to me, my business, what I do, and keeping in mind, all the systems I have, which was a really good point. Complex systems are running my enterprise. What use cases have real business ROI for me? And it has to be a low-hanging fruit. You can't do motherhood and apple pie right now. You have to go for the low-hanging use case. So that's the number one problem. Number two problem is, how do I get started? It's harder than you think to conceptualize the data platform you need, the architecture of the infrastructure, software, who has to work together, how does it integrate into systems, DevOps.
Yeah.
People just fall flat on their face when they try to operationalize AI. And then the last piece of it is, can I trust it? And what I mean by trust is, will this AI model make a decision that improves on the business decisions I make today, right? So three things: use case, how do I get started, and trust. Why don't we start from the end and see if you have a differing, or what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, actually, I'm going to add to what you just said, Sumit. Like, one of the things that I really see, like, as I was saying, like, the human is the glue today. And if I look at an enterprise and I say, what will it take for you guys to change? They have to stop looking at things in a tactical, always with a narrow scope of view. Use cases, you brought up use cases. They don't think about a holistic use case. When I think about a holistic, and that's what startups do, right? Startups think about a use case holistically, where they are not bounded by, technology debt. They are not bounded by skill debt. They can go hire whoever they want. They can buy the technology they want. They move fast. But when I work with enterprise, they are scared because the operating model will change. But at the same point, like as you were saying, like, if they would only move fast in terms of understanding the end-to-end solution and say that there are, n bottlenecks. I mean, human skill is always a bottleneck, technology is a bottleneck, operating model is a bottleneck. You can change them. It's only a matter of accepting that everything has to change.
Which is why I said it's a red herring, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The lack of talent is a red herring, because my perspective on this is, you take a good programmer, and if you really want to teach them logistic regression, I can do it in an afternoon, right?
Yes.
So it's not a lack of talent that's a problem. It's a lack of everything you said, which is,
I think I disagree. I think if you think about if you think about actually people who can build really good machine learning algorithms, let's call them data scientists, right? I think in the whole world, maybe there are few 100,000, and the best people are in the FANG companies, right? And so it's very, very hard for an enterprise to actually hire a good data scientist. I mean, there was a case where we were trying to hire someone, and this person had like multi-100,000 offer from Netflix.
Yeah.
Like,
So FANG, if you all don't know, is Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google, right?
So I think it's very, very hard for like a general enterprise to get access to great talent, right? So that's number one.
But let's go on that, right? I just because I think you and I are agreeing but disagreeing, right? I think my point is, I said get started with ML, get started with AI. And for that, you don't need this exceptional talent. I think if you truly want to build the ultimate data science thing, which is what your startup's trying to do, for sure you have to go after this uber talent, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not just like learning logistic regression algorithm in one day and applying it, right? It's also about like when to apply, what use case to pick, like what features to engineer, like that. The whole sense of like that needs to be taught, and I think it's not very easy to find those people. And I think the other part is like, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's like identification definition of use case and actually the barrier to entry, the technology like not being there, right? So I think there are very few technology platforms out there that actually reduce that barrier to entry for enterprises to jump in. Okay, here's my data. I have some data somewhere, and can I just start building a model, right? Because they do want to do this, because they do see ROI gains when they actually do build machine learning, and they want to adopt it, right? But there is this like the skill gap and the lack of technology, and then the culture of trust is what you mentioned. That's also another big reason where in certain sectors they really are afraid, if we do this AI, would we get into this news? I see all these like Amazon recruiting tool being biased, and I see another news. So there's also this risk of like.
I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for you to pitch your company. So you guys are solving the trust problem. So I mean, that's the nail you're trying to hit the hammer on. So tell us why. If I may digress for 30 seconds.
So what we are building is essentially what we have found is in companies that are actually adopting AI or thinking of adopting AI, there's this disconnect between the teams that build AI solutions and the rest of the business organization, right? So we are building an explainable AI platform that bridges the gap between, let's say, the data science or the AI team and the business team, and make these AI products and systems explainable. And why this is important is because as a business owner, I want to know if I can trust this AI system is actually doing the right thing, is it actually being fair and sort of like unbiased to my users, and at the same time, do I know if it's a black box? I have 100 questions like, why is this making these decisions? What factors are contributing?
Sure.
And that's basically what we are trying to do.
So Manoj, what do you think the challenges are?
I'm going to take more of a contrarian point of view.
Excellent.
Maybe slightly different tack at it. To me, when I think from my point of view, it's about democratization of AI. How do I have 150 plus people in my organization. They are engineers who are building and running my cloud at scale. How do I make them more successful by empowering them with the right kind of tools so that I don't have to just depend on these 5 people and they becoming bottleneck for my business. So I like to see that being challenged more and more innovation going into tools that sort of kind of reduce the barrier of entry and makes everybody proficient and effective leveraging our AI tools. That's how I like to see it from my point of view, because we have millions of software engineers like us. How do we empower them? How do we make them more productive rather than trying to create a new breed? And therefore, then we only fight just for those people and kind of crosswire with each other. That's my point of view.
You know, it's funny you say that. So I always tell people that we're in the 8086 world or era of AI right now. And we haven't even invented 286, let alone the Pentium and the power processor, which is the corporation I come from. And it's similarly on the programming side of things, right? We have TensorFlow, we have all these great things scikit-learn, but I think they're like assembly language programming right now, right? And I believe that automatic AI software, auto AI or auto machine learning software will be the compilers, right? Which will enable the average DevOps person to be able to use this. And we'll also be able to get AI models that are pre-trained that you then retrain only slightly through transfer learning and other methods to be very amenable to your products, right? And if I may pitch my product, I build an auto AI product. So let's check it out.
Just to add one more point there, we only get fascinated by what happens in FANG or these bigger companies. But there's so much opportunity when it comes to AI to solve business problem across the whole enterprise spectrum.
So let's talk about it. Why doesn't everyone give their favorite or let's say, what do you guys see in an enterprise? What kind of use cases are you seeing?
Yeah, from my point of view, the use cases is about how do I make my customer experience? How do I predict the outcome for my customer? How do I look at the whole spectrum of operations and optimize the way I want to respond to situations? Because there will be hundreds of issues that's coming at me. What is more important? How do I predict? How do I make sure I'm emphasizing on the right issue? Those are the important aspects for me on a day-to-day basis, spanning the whole spectrum of, or both sides of the coin, where it's about how I make my customer experience our product, as well as internally, how do I make sure that experience is smooth and flowing.
Yeah, I think I'll take a broader point of view here. I think wherever there is large amount of data, you do see AI applicable, right? So whether that's, I think where are we collecting large amount of data today? Like maybe in manufacturing, where we're deploying all these sensors and actually grabbing a lot of data, and that's like a great sort of way to optimize the workflow and improve the
So
AI.
that's a great opportunity, but I guess my question was, are those customers actually doing something? And what I'm really getting to is,
Yeah.
in that particular example, for
Yeah.
example, the complexity of the systems around that is so high that a lot of those customers are unable to take advantage of that data.
That's true. They're probably in a much earlier stage. So I would say like fintech, I would say is like what I see is like after consumer tech is like much ahead in terms of applying AI, especially AI powered lending is huge, and financial inclusion and lending for like across the world, and bringing a lot of a lot of people in the world actually don't have credit history.
Right.
And so you have to use like if you don't have credit history, how am I going to make a decision? How am I going to give a loan to you or not, right? So AI powered lending is something that's very interesting actually.
Sreekar?
Yep. Actually, I want to make 2 points. One thing I'm seeing is definitely in industry, they're moving more from structured data business analyst viewpoint into more of how do I bring the unstructured data, audio, video, images, help in decision making faster. The bigger momentum of that, if you see, is how should enterprise stop thinking about AI and ML as just a cost reduction measure to more really drive the revenue generation? How do I make better decisions by using my data? How do I use algorithms? Like, when we talk about Google, Facebook, and all of these guys, we have really streamlined those millions of people to come to this one portal, interact in a very specific way, and give us very specific information. Enterprises don't operate like that. They operate with many, many feeds of data coming in, many different interaction touch points. This is the huge opportunity that I see in enterprises, where instead of seeing themselves as, use AI and ML to displace human labor so I can cost cut, to how do I use all of this data that I've collected and really dig deep into the data using algorithms and look for new business opportunities, look for new ways in which they can operationalize their own people. That is the big change that I see in enterprises.
So let me riff off that. So I'll tell you what, why don't every one of us give one piece of advice to people here who either have their own company or work for an enterprise on what they could do to do something in AI, and the entrepreneurs in the audience, let's give them some advice on what they could do to address enterprise problems. So we'll start with the first entrepreneur in the middle here. So.
Sure. I think if you are thinking about AI, the first thing is to get your data platform, or like make sure that you're collecting data and structure and keeping it in a structured way, in a systematic way, right? That's the first step. And the second step is like, do you then want to like do apply an AutoML platform, like bring in a vendor and actually do it? That's like one option. The other option is, do you want to build a homegrown system, whether you have the talent to actually build, like use open source libraries to actually build models. I think the first step is to get your data right and get your use case, and then figure out how do you actually build machine learning models.
Any advice for entrepreneurs?
I guess like the thing is, it all depends on what problem you're trying to solve, right? So if there are lots of problems where you can apply AI for a product use case, that I think that I think if you can, the barrier there is, as a startup entrepreneur, where do you get the data? And so if you can actually figure that out, where you can actually get like these data sources where you can then build a product that is better than an incumbent, then there's a great opportunity. That's basically what I can say.
From the enterprise perspective, start with the outcome in mind. Why are you trying to solve this problem, and what is the right tool? That comes second, in my opinion. So start with the outcome. That is what is more tangible for enterprise. From an entrepreneur perspective, I already made this point before. For me, it's all about how do we democratize artificial intelligence? How do we enable, either it's some sort of like tooling of our systems, or making the data see the benefit early on. Those are the tools that are important, and more investment to make it frictionless would be my advice.
Yeah, actually, this is a great question. So one of the things I am definitely seeing is enterprise has taken a very departmental view of all of their operations. time has come to look holistically across your organization. There is so much happening in an organization that there is a lot of value in driving that knowledge from across the divisions, across departments. For the entrepreneurs in the house, don't just focus on technology. I think we talked about it. There's a lot going on the human capital. There's a lot going on the operating model. There's a lot going on how quickly regulations are going to hit us. So take a holistic view even there. I think there is value in looking broadly than narrowly at technology.
Yeah, and my piece of advice here would be that look for a low-hanging use case. Hire a consulting firm that knows what they're doing around analytics and
Thank
AI
you, Sumit.
to get you started. I recommend starting with a small one, even though I come from a really large one. And the reason is you want a partner. And as entrepreneurs, I recommend if you really want to get into AI, work with one of these companies who are looking for people like you because they have access to data and you have access to skills. So that's a good opportunity for you to figure out what to build and where the problems are. So we have a few more minutes, I think, and we can open it up to a few questions, and lots of hands went up real quick. So let's start here, and then we'll go to the back. How's that?
Hello.
Okay?
So for majority of enterprise applications, right, they are based on user licenses. By introducing AI, when we try to improve the productivity, don't you think we are contradicting the pricing or revenue model? Do you think the model is going to change now by introduction of AI ML in the enterprise applications?
Yeah, I don't. It depends. So if the software vendor provides AI with their application, they may price that AI as a separate module, as a higher price module. But I think that's market dynamics. If their competitors are providing it, or if there's a startup trying to disrupt them, which is, by the way, very common now, then that just becomes a part of the core value.
Yeah, I can add a little bit of layer to that. We are doing a lot of work in cyber AI. One of the challenges we are facing is each of the point solutions that the customers are using are all going AI. So which means that everybody is using some sort of a black box situation going on there. And at the end of the day, if I'm enterprise and I'm using 10 tools and all of them are doing whatever they want, and they just tell me one score, what does that really mean to me? So to me, the holistic sense would be if I'm the platform integrator, I should be doing the algorithmic view, not every one of those point solutions.
So let's take one more question on the back.
Mr. Sal Kumar, my friend, who runs Nalanda 2.0.
Thanks, Tushar, for the plug. The panel initially started with as divided on the talent issue. There is a talent shortage or there is not a talent shortage. I heard different opinions. After this panel, are they all converging on one thing, or how do we address this talent gap?
Yeah.
Sumit wants to know whether you guys could converge here or not. Forget about an AI model.
Yeah, I think we should be converging on the tools and how that will address the talent or democratization.
So I think my opinion is that that's not the reason why AI in the enterprise is not progressing. I believe there's enough talent, and the talent within most enterprises is good enough for them to start doing something and building real models. I think the point you made is if you want to get really serious and deep and start doing all the fancy schmancy stuff, you need to get some really good talent out there, and that is a problem right now because our universities aren't producing enough, and this is pretty, it's like hiring an ace programmer, no different.
I mean, the thing is, for the talent level that the general enterprise have, the tools are not there to reduce the barrier, right? So essentially, that's basically the thing. So either you increase the talent or you actually reduce the barrier.
Well, actually, the way I would like to see is hire smart people. They'll figure out what to do. Yeah. So there are a lot of people, if you can look outside the very talent that we are looking for, look for smart people, then you can always train them to become who you want them to be. Along the way, they will show you what the company should become. So good people is what makes Google, Facebook, Microsoft, all these guys succeed. Less so about, are they ML guys, are they AI guys, are they DevOps guys? Look for smart people. They will solve
That's a very good point. We have so many talented people across everywhere. Just look this set of audience here. If we can make the friction and barrier to use to make it AI accessible to everybody, that's a winner.
Perfect. Next question.
Yeah, right here. Just shot to the right.
Thank you. I was in a Stanford-based startup, my last job, and we had to work with doctors and explain AI to them. and he was doing a crowdsourced medical publishing startup, and I saw a lot of strong trends for AI. We get a lot of reports from doctors, and it's very easy to create a global medical knowledge database with that. But how the heck do you explain AI to doctors? They don't get it because they are investing in the project. You got to go and pitch it to them. How do you deal with this? Doctors is one.
That's where Fiddler could be useful.
So you're explaining.
Yeah, absolutely. As in that's exactly a problem what you're mentioning. Right? So the business user, the loan officer, or the physician, they don't really know why is this AI system actually prescribing this thing or like coming up with this diagnosis, right? And so you need like ways to actually explain these decisions in a way.
But I think you're hitting the hammer on the nail of a problem, right? Which is that at the end, AI is going to be used by a person on the manufacturing floor. A physician, an audit analyst, and they aren't going to just do something because a program told them to do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe in 10 years or 20 years, that'll be, we'll all just be doing what our phones tell us to do anyway, right? But we're not there yet. And I think there is going to be a very big play for explainable AI. There's also going to be a very big play for visual AI.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and especially in medical science, right? There's a lot of visual aspect, right? A good doctor, in my opinion, looks at you and can tell a lot about you rather than just reading charts. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of the sort of the application of AI.
So I would say like you train AI scientists about medical terminology. Doctors should be trained about AI terminology.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, actually, if you look back, this goes back 30 years, right? This has got nothing to do with AI or machine learning. This is about decision engineering. Yeah. How do you make good decisions? By looking at data, by looking at analysis, looking at patterns. So this is decision engineering. What we need to show the broader enterprise and the users is how do you make good decisions by looking at patterns. If we crack that code, it doesn't matter whether it's AI or machine learning or whatever.
So we're out of time, guys. I'd love to take more questions, but we're all going to be around for a few more, maybe a few hours for myself. But, thank you so much for your patience, and I hope you enjoyed the panel.
Absolutely. Next time we'll keep it till the dinner time, People can ask as many questions as they want.